And so you will have no doubt followed the news following the announcement earlier this afternoon of her failing health, with her family being urged to be by her side. And they actually did go to Balmoral Castle, which you see on your screens, to be by her side during those final moments. Well, the reactions are now coming in from various world leaders following her death. There's a tweet here from President Emerson Mnangagwa, who's the president of Zimbabwe. Let me read out his tweet. He says, "My deepest condolences to the royal family, the people of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth as they mourn the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. May she rest in peace." So those are some of the messages that are coming in from various leaders. No doubt we'll be following those from leaders of the Commonwealth, of which she was the head. So many of those that continue to come in. Of course, a speech is expected from Downing Street, number 10. That you can see on your screens from the just new Prime Minister Liz Truss, who got the mandate from Queen Elizabeth II just 2 days ago when she visited her at Balmoral Castle, as is tradition in the United Kingdom. So as those continue to come in, we'll definitely get those to you. These pictures are live from the BBC. There is some activity there, I believe. That is Liz Truss. Let's listen. Minister.
We are all devastated by the news that we have just heard from Balmoral. The death of Her Majesty the Queen is a huge shock to the nation and to the world. Queen Elizabeth II was the rock on which modern Britain was built. Our country has grown and flourished under her reign. Britain is the great country it is today because of her. She ascended the throne just after the Second World War. She championed the development of the Commonwealth from a small group of 7 countries to a family of 56 nations, spanning every continent of the world. We are now a modern, thriving, dynamic nation. Through thick and thin, Queen Elizabeth II provided us with the stability and the strength that we needed. She was the very spirit of Great Britain, and that spirit will endure. She has been our longest ever reigning monarch. It's an extraordinary achievement to have presided with such dignity and grace for 70 years. Her life of service stretched beyond most of our living memories. In return, she was loved and admired by the people in the United Kingdom and all around the world. She has been a personal inspiration to me and to many Britons. Her devotion to duty is an example to us all. Earlier this week, at 96, she remained determined to carry out her duties as she appointed me as her 15th Prime Minister. Throughout her life, she's visited more than 100 countries, and she has touched the lives of millions around the world. In the difficult days ahead, we will come together with our friends across the United Kingdom, the Commonwealth and the world to celebrate her extraordinary lifetime of service. It is a day of great loss, but Queen Elizabeth II leaves a great legacy. Today the crown passes, as it has done for more than 1,000 years, to our new monarch, our new head of state, His Majesty King Charles III. With the King's family, we mourn the loss of his mother, and as we mourn, we must come together as a people to support him, to help him bear the awesome responsibility that he now carries for us all. We offer him our loyalty and devotion, just as his mother devoted so much to so many for so long. And with the passing of the second Elizabethan age, we usher in a new era in the magnificent history of our great country, exactly as Her Majesty would have wished, by saying the words, "God save the King."
The Prime Minister, Liz Truss, who was installed at Downing Street just a couple of days ago, having met
That is Liz Truss, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, addressing the nation and indeed the world following the death of Queen Elizabeth II. She termed it as a huge shock to the nation and the world, terming her reign obviously as one of the longest ever reigning monarch of the United Kingdom, saying her term was one of great inspiration and devotion to duty, having strengthened the Commonwealth from just 7 nations when she took to the throne to just 56 nations now of the Commonwealth, having visited 100 countries. Liz Truss terms her life as a personal inspiration to her and her devotion to duty. So the pictures you're seeing on your screen now of Balmoral Castle in Scotland, where she died. There is now a statement from Buckingham Palace, and it is a statement from His Majesty the King. That would be former, now, Prince Charles. Let me read that statement to you. It says, "The death of my beloved mother, Her Majesty the Queen, is a moment of the greatest sadness for me and all members of my family. We mourn profoundly the passing of a cherished sovereign and a much-loved mother. I know her loss will be deeply felt throughout the country, the realms and the Commonwealth, and by countless people around the world. During this period of mourning and change, my family and I will be comforted and sustained by our knowledge of the respect and deep affection in which the Queen was so widely held." That is now from His Majesty the King, and that's a statement coming from Buckingham Palace, dated today, Thursday, the 8th of September, 2022. So those pictures you're seeing on your screens are of the life and times of Queen Elizabeth II, who was Queen for 70 years, having arisen to the throne just after World War II while here in Kenya. Some of those pictures you've seen there are of Treetops Hotel in Nyeri, where she visited. And that was where she learned of the passing of her father, the King of England at the time, in 1952. I want to read you another tweet. We've already told you of reactions from President Emerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe. Let me just read that to you again. Says, "My deepest condolences to the royal family, the people of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth as they mourn the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. May she rest in peace." So there will be no doubt some more tributes and messages of condolence from various world leaders. We will bring those to you as soon as we get them. So there's a couple of things that will now follow her death and indeed what happens thereafter in terms of the succession and quite a few activities that are set to take place following that. As I'd been telling you earlier, upon her death, the private secretary informed the Prime Minister of that. The royal household also issues an official statement informing the staff, civil servants and members of the public of the Queen's death. And then there is an alert that is sent out. Now, the Ministry of Defence will arrange for gun salutes to take place and a national minute of silence will be announced. There was also set to be a service of remembrance that will be arranged at London's St. Paul's Cathedral. Now, as we have just seen Liz Truss do, the Prime Minister is usually the first member of government to make a statement on the death of the Queen, as we have seen her do just a short while ago. And then the Prime Minister will hold an audience with Prince Charles, who will deliver a broadcast to the nation. And now we've seen that statement coming out of Buckingham Palace, and it is titled "From His Majesty the King." The royal family's website has been changed to a black background. Also, UK government websites will display a black banner, as well as all other government departmental social media pages. Now, there will be a 12-day mourning period for the death of the Queen. Now, the morning after, which is tomorrow, after Queen Elizabeth's death, Charles will be sworn in as the new sovereign by the Accession Council. Now, because she died in Balmoral, her body will be transported to Buckingham Palace in London, and this could happen either by road or by plane, and will be received by the Prime Minister and members of the Cabinet, as well as Prince Charles. We have another... We have, King Charles, His Majesty the King. We have another message here from the Israeli Prime Minister, that's on Twitter, saying, on behalf of the government and people of Israel, I send my condolences to the royal family and the people of the United Kingdom on the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. She leaves behind an unparalleled legacy of leadership and service. May her memory be a blessing. That is a message on Twitter from the Prime Minister of Israel. So those continue to come in, even with the events that follow from now. We want to just continue to give you, what happens next. Of course, once the Queen's coffin arrives, it'll be carried to Buckingham Palace, to the Palace of Westminster. A service will be held in Westminster Hall upon the coffin's arrival. Now, the picture you're seeing on your screen, that one that just flipped before this one of her family, was probably the last images of Queen Elizabeth II seen alive. And that was her receiving Liz Truss, the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. That happened just the day before yesterday, 2 days ago. So back to what happens next. Queen Elizabeth II will lie in state at Westminster Hall in the Palace of Westminster for 3 days. Tickets will be issued to VIPs for designated time slots to come and make their respect. Charles will travel to Wales to receive another motion of condolence, and he'll attend a service at Llandaff Cathedral in Cardiff ahead of the Queen's funeral, which will take place the following day. A lot of these things happening pretty fast and in quick succession. So those are the events that are taking place in the United Kingdom. And of course, as they mourn the death of their Queen after 70 years on the throne. Now, of course, we'll continue to update you on all of those events that will take place now over the next coming days. Let's go back to